Hello, thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins, where I compare books with their movie adaptations. My name is Laura, and today I'm talking about The Wonder, which is a novel by Emna Donoghue, published in 2016, and then the movie was directed by Sebastian Lillo and was released 2022 and is currently on Netflix. And before I get into comparing the book and movie, I want to warn you there will be spoilers. There will be like light spoilers in the first half of this video, and in the second half I will be getting into like big spoilers. But like I said, in the first half there will be some like light spoilers as well. So if you don't want to have anything revealed, then you should save this video till after you have seen the movie or read the book. So a brief summary for this, we have an English nurse named Lib, and she is hired by this committee in Ireland, because there is a 11-year-old girl in this town who claims to have not eaten in 4 months, and this committee has been formed to watch her to see if that is true, and if she really is living, some religious miracle and is able to live without food, or if she has actually been getting food. They want these watchers to find how she is getting the food, and the two watchers are Lib and a nun. And when Lib starts watching Anna, she doesn't see how she could be getting food. And she also sees that Anna is sincere. But she also, believes in science. And so she's like, there's no way she could be living without food. So clearly she had been getting food in some way. But Anna herself is sincere. So if she's been getting food, which it seems like she has, then, it's in a way that Anna thinks she is still being true to her fast, if that makes sense. And yeah, as the story goes on, we learn about things in Lib's past, as well as learning about the reason for Anna's fast and all of the details with that. And on to the book review. This book was kind of a slow burn, but I was always very interested because I was just so curious to know how Anna was living without food. And the book had like a big supernatural vibe to it. And so part of me was like, maybe she really has been living without food, but there's like some supernatural weird thing going on, which is causing her to be able to live without food, right? Or maybe it would take a religious turn. We see that it was like in a religious miracle way, and that's how it was happening. So I was very curious to see what the story was, and it never seemed obvious one way or the other what the truth was until around the time the truth was revealed. But yeah, the town is very religious. They're strict Catholics. And so you have that, but their Catholicism blends with like these supernatural beliefs, like I talked about, and this otherworldly vibe the story had, because the townsfolk are very superstitious and they believe in fairies, who they call little people. And that comes up a lot. And then there's also just like a dark, foreboding vibe to the book as well. And there's different events and different things that happen that are just very unsettling. And then when the reveal, there's like a couple of reveals, but one of the reveals that happens is very dark and sinister, and so that kind of fit with the vibe we'd been feeling throughout the whole book. And I did really like the bond between Anna and Lib in this book, and so I really felt the love Lib forms for Anna. And then Anna, I really did believe she was just so sincere and genuine, and I truly did care for her in this book. And while this book, a huge theme of the book and movie is definitely it's being critical of religious beliefs, like when you're very extreme in your religious beliefs. However, I did like how she has people like all along the spectrum of, the science versus religion thing, because you have Lib, who is very against religion, and then you have a lot of the townsfolk who are extremely religious, and yet you do have characters that are kind of in between. Like Will is a journalist who is in town, and he's Irish Catholic, and Lib gets to know him, and he's Catholic, but he also doesn't let his beliefs get the best of him. And he also uses logic as well. And then there's also two people in the book that Anna makes assumptions about due to their religion, but then she is disproved, so showing that she herself had her own prejudices against people who are religious. Mild spoiler, but it's the priest and the nun. She assumed that both of them must have thought that Anna was living without food and she was a miracle, but we find out that the priest and the nun were skeptical, and they didn't believe she was an actual miracle, and they thought that the family was lying. And so Lib is surprised that they had these like logical ideas about Anna, and they weren't just quick to believe that it was a miracle. Quick side tangent, by the way, it annoys me when like the science versus religion debate, because I am religious, but I also like believe in science, which saying believe in science sounds funny, but I think God uses science to achieve things. For example, I think God had evolution happen in order to create humans, right? Like it doesn't have to be either evolution or creation. It's one or the other. I think it's a combination of both, because I definitely think evolution happened, but I think God had evolution happen to create people. But anyway, that's a kind of a different topic, but it does relate to the story. Anyway, so to get started with Lib's backstory, so in the book, we learn more about Lib and how she worked for the Nightingale this takes place in the 1850s, 1860s, by the way. So whatever the previous war had been, Lib had worked under the Nightingale, who was this very esteemed nurse. And this is mentioned briefly in the movie, but it was definitely a big thing in the book. And we find out that, Lib herself has her secrets, and near the end it is revealed that her secret is that she is not a widow, but that her husband left her soon after their baby daughter died. Her baby was like just a few weeks old and she died, and then the husband left. So that's her big secret. I thought it would be something more, but anyway. And we also find out that her family does not talk to her anymore because when her husband left her, they were very disappointed in her. They didn't blame the husband, like they weren't upset with him. They were upset at her for not being able to hold on to him. And then when she tells them, like, I'm just going to tell people I'm a widow, I don't want to say my husband left me. And they're just so shocked that she would lie about it that they cut her off and don't talk to her anymore. And the movie shows early on, like it shows it at 2 different times, where before bed she unwraps this cloth and inside is this like a vial of liquid as well as these knitted baby booties. And we see her drink the liquid, and it's like some kind of sleeping drug that helps her sleep at night, I guess. And she also pricks her finger and puts her finger in her mouth each time as well. And so this is not in the book, but the book does have things that show how Lib herself is critical of religion, and yet she has her own rituals, right? And so I do like that, how whether you are on the science side or the religious side, we all have our different rituals and our different beliefs and the things we hold on to. So I thought that was interesting. And in the book, like I said, the Nightingale is a bigger thing, and we see how Lib like really idolized this woman, the Nightingale, and she refers to the book the Nightingale gave her and like words that the Nightingale said, seeing her as like this figure to look up to and to be like. And then Will, that guy, the journalist, he tells her something about how the Nightingale like is bedridden now and is very weak. And Lib is like, this is a blow to her because she didn't realize that. And to think of her idol as someone who is now bedridden was just very shocking for her to take. And that's not in the movie. And then another story that was in the book that is not in the movie is when she worked for the Nightingale, they were in need of spoons, I think to feed the soldiers. They didn't have enough spoons, so they were sharing like 2 spoons for all of these soldiers. And so the Nightingale is finally like, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm going to take matters into my own hands. The hospital isn't doing anything about this. So she gives Lib some money, her own money. She gives it to Lib, and Lib goes out and buys the spoons so that they will have enough. And then when Lib takes the situation with Anna into her own hands, Will says how, it's like the spoons all over again, where she's seeing these people who aren't living up to what needs to be done. And so she takes it into her own hands to solve the problem. And to move on to Anna. So in the book and movie, when she first meets Anna, she seems to be doing like fairly well. She's not like the picture of health, but she's like, not bad, especially for someone who claims they haven't eaten, right? But as I said, as Lib is watching, she doesn't see how Anna is getting food. And so she's like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And she also quickly forms a bond with Anna. And as the days go by, Anna tries to guess Lib's first name, and then eventually she reveals it to her and tells her it's Lib. And in the book and movie, we see that Anna is wearing her brother's boots. But in the book, we learn that the reason she's wearing his boots is because her limbs are so swollen, her feet won't fit in her own shoes. So that's not mentioned in the movie at all. But like we hear she's wearing his boots, but that's it. But yeah, having swollen limbs is like a side effect of like malnutrition and starvation, and the swelling gets worse and worse as the days progress. And in the book and movie, Lib notices Anna's mom giving Anna like a hug and kiss at morning and night. And she allows this. She's like, I have to be watching Anna at all times, but you can hug her just as long as I'm around. But then one day Anna, like she puts her hand up to stop her mom from hugging her, and her mom is like very hurt by this, like, you're rejecting my hug and my kiss. But Anna is like very steadfast and not wanting her mom to hug her anymore. Whereas in the movie, Lib puts a stop to these hugs and kisses, and she's like, hey, like, stop it. Like, you're interfering with our watch. You can't touch her anymore. So very different right there, because Lib stops it in the movie, whereas in the book, it was Anna's own choice. And to talk about Anna, Will, and Lib. So in the book, Lib, another way she bonds with Anna is that she tells her riddles. And then when Anna meets Will, she tells Will the riddles. And so just these riddles were not a big part of the book, but it was just touching, seeing Lib tell Anna the riddles. And then when Anna meets Will, just their scene together was very sweet in the book, and how they quickly grew attached to each other and just the bond the 3 of them formed. Whereas in the movie, the only riddles we hear in the movie are Will asking Anna the riddles. So I know that's a minor change, but it is a bit different. And I I enjoyed the scenes of the three of them together in the movie, but I just thought it was sweeter in the book. But yeah, I don't know if I talked about this, but Will is a journalist and he and Lib start a romance while they're in town and she will confide in him. But in the book, after Will meets Anna for the first time, he and Lib are talking and he says like, yeah, she's, a very delightful dying child. And Lib is like, wait, what? She's dying? Because she had seen her like gradual fading away. And this is like over a week into the watch. I think it's like 10 days into the watch or something. So having Will, someone with fresh eyes, see Anna and see the terrible condition she's in, he's able to quickly see that she's dying. Whereas Lib had kind of, maybe she didn't want to believe it, but she'd also just seen it happen so gradually. And so she realizes like, oh, like Anna is dying. Whereas in the movie, in book and movie, Anna faints while she's with Will and Lib. But in the movie, I think it's just Anna fainting and her being so weak is what leads Lib to know she's dying. Whereas, like I said, in the book, it was Will who clued her into it, whereas in the movie, it seemed like she kind of figured it out on her own. But in the book, a doctor shows up earlier and he checks out Anna, not the town doctor, but some other doctor. And he suggests force feeding Anna. And Lib is just like disgusted at his inhumanness towards Anna. However, when she realizes Anna is dying, she contemplates force feeding her, but she just can't bring herself to do it because of how it would hurt Anna, because Anna doesn't want to eat, And in the movie, she does try to force feed Anna, like she starts putting the tube down. However, she quickly decides not to and she takes the tube back out. So in the book, she never went through with it at all. Whereas in the movie, she starts to and then she stops. And we find out, again, going back to Anna's brother, we find out that he had died the previous year. And there's this creepy family photo that they have, and he was already dead when they took the photo, but they tried to do it so that he seemed alive. And this was like talked about more in the book, and again, it just really added to this like creepy vibe. Whereas the movie, like we see it, but it's not really, we don't talk too much about the photograph. Anna tells Lib that the reason she is fasting is because she thinks her brother is in hell and she is trying to save him. And Lib is like, Anna, like he was just a boy. He died when he was 15. Like what could he have done that would be so bad? Like it's fine. You don't need to do this for him. And we also learned that the last time Anna ate was when she was 11 and she took her communion. So she had like the wafer they have at communion and that was the last thing she ever ate. And then she began fasting. And we also learn in the book. So the communion thing is the same in book and movie, but in the book, we learned that a lot of people had communion on the same day because there was this priest in town, like, firing everybody up and giving these sermons. And it talks about how the day before the communion, he had given a really like strong sermon against fornication. And that like got everybody worried. And then they went to communion the next day. And so Anna will say that how she survives without food is that she receives manna from heaven. And, spoilers, big spoilers coming in right here. We find out that the manna from heaven she's talking about is that when her mom would kiss her, she would feed her like a bird and give her food, and the mom called it manna, and that is how she got Anna to eat it. But like I said in the book, Anna just decides to stop receiving this food, and we never really learn why. Whereas in the movie, Lib is the one who prevents Anna from receiving this food because she stops the mom from being able to kiss Anna. And we never get into like the history of how this feeding began, but in my mind, I kind of thought of it like Anna began fasting and the mom wanted to keep her daughter alive, but maybe she also liked the idea of having this daughter who was a wonder and a miracle. So she's like, well, I need to keep her alive, but I also want to keep up the idea of a daughter who can live without food. So I will feed her, this secret feeding way and tell her it's manna from heaven. And that's how I'll get her to agree to it. We don't know for sure if that's the story. Like maybe because Anna definitely wanted to be fasting and it was her idea to be fasting. And so the receiving the manna thing, I think it was just the mom trying to get her daughter to eat something, but while maintaining this facade of a girl who lives without food. And in the book, when Lib realizes this feeding method, she knows there's a committee meeting happening, so she goes even though she wasn't invited, and she's like, I'm going to tell them the truth and we can end the watch. However, when she shows up, the parents are there, and she's like, oh, well, I can't talk about it now because clearly the mom's going to deny it, and what will be the point? So she kind of pivots and is like, okay, I won't tell them about that. I will just say, Anna is dying and we need to stop this watch in order to help her live. And the nun, she had told the nun about this meeting, wanting her to show up to strengthen numbers, but the nun seemed like she wouldn't. However, partway through the meeting, the nun walks in with Anna and everybody can see that clearly she is dying. So it was great that the nun showed up. However, the committee is just like, nope, we're continuing the watch and whatever happens, happens. Whereas in the movie, this is very different because Lib calls the meeting and she tells them the feeding method, and then we find out that the parents and the nun and Lib were like behind a door and they're like, bring them in. And they bring in the parents and Anna and the nun and they ask them, they're like, is this true? Is this how you were feeding Anna? And of course they deny it, and the nun denies seeing anything. So like Lib is just really left all alone in that moment because no one will stand up for her and reveal the truth. So very different from book to movie, because in the book, the nun was actually like, it was a good thing she was there, even if it didn't change anything. And then she never even brought up the feeding method because she knew it just wouldn't do any good. And I liked how this played out better in the book than the movie. But yeah, so that was a different. But moving on to even deeper, the reasons why Anna is fasting. Again, big reveals coming right here. So we find out that Anna, when she was 9 and her brother was 13, and she's 11 right now, by the way, and he died when he was 15. So when they were 9 and 13, he tells her that they can do what's called a double love. That's what he called it, where they love each other as brother and sister, but also as husband and wife. And so this goes on, and then eventually the brother gets sick and he dies, and Anna is like, what if what was happening was wrong and that's why he died? And then that preacher came into town, a few months later, and he preaches about fornication, and he specifically talks about siblings and how it's evil. And so Anna is like, whoa, like, okay, what happened was wrong and my brother's in hell and I need to fast to save his soul. And she also like has her own fears about her own soul. And in the book, so Anna tells Lib this, and Lib is like, okay, well, I need to tell your mom. And so she tells the mom, and we find out that the mom already knew. Anna had told the mom soon after the brother died because she was worried about his soul. And so she told the mom the whole thing. And the mom was like, I don't want you telling these lies, like, don't speak of this again. And she was just in denial about it. I think like she did know deep down that Anna was telling the truth, but she just didn't want to believe it, and she wanted to be in denial about it and act like that didn't happen. And especially since the brother died, she probably wants to preserve this idealized memory of him. And then also Lib confides as well in the priest, and she tells the local priest like, hey, this was happening with Anna, this is the reason for everything. And the priest had known as well. So Anna told not only her mom, but she also told her priest, and both of them wanted to just shut Anna up and be like, you know what, no, don't talk about this, don't bring this up again. So I thought like that was one of the most condemning scenes, is knowing that the mom and the priest had both known what happened, and yet they didn't do anything about it, and they let Anna do this fast and starve herself. And also the doctor in the town, not the priest, but the doctor, he truly believed Anna was living without food. And he had these crazy ideas being like, whoa, she's like becoming reptilian, living without food. And like, he's the town doctor and he's just believing in these crazy things, right? Anyway, so very disturbing what was going on with Anna and her brother. And then as well as people knowing and covering it up. And big reveal with that, and just very upsetting. But in the book and movie, Lib convinces Anna, because remember earlier they were talking about names, because she was asking Lib what her name was and what her nickname was, and Lib tells her, because Lib's full name is Elizabeth. And so then Lib is suggesting nicknames for Anna, and one of them is Nan. And Anna says she likes the name Nan, but she's like, but I can't be called Nan, because if I was, like, I would be someone different. And so Lib takes this idea and she's like, you know what, Anna? You can die. Anna can die, and you will be reborn as Nan. And Nan will be this fresh little girl who has nothing bad has happened to her. And you can just live as Nan, this new person. You can be reborn. And Anna is, pretty quick to hold on to this idea. And so the Anna version dies, so to speak. And then she is reborn as Nan. And this is when she starts to eat. Obviously, she's very frail, so she's eating small portions. And the whole town is in a public mass, or like they're holding a mass for Anna. And that's why everyone is gone. And she's able to do this with Anna. Anyway, so she has Anna be reborn as Nan, and then Will takes her away, and then Lib sets the place on fire, and then she tells people when they ask, she tells them that Anna had died, and then that she kind of freaked out and the lamp tipped over and the whole place burned up. And in the book and movie, there's a great scene where the nun talks to Lib before Lib, because she eventually goes to meet up with Will and Anna. But before she does, the nun is like, hey, so I left mass early and I saw a vision of Anna being carried away on a horse. Like, is she in a better place now? And I loved this part because then Lib is like, yes, she's in a better place now, because the nun knows what happened. The nun knows that Lib saved Anna and took her away. And the nun wants to know that Anna is okay because she loved her too, and she will keep Lib's secret. So I just thought that was a really touching scene in both book and movie, and Florence Pugh as Lib was just fantastic in the movie, by the way, in this scene, and multiple scenes. She's just so amazing with her facial expressions. But yeah, the scene between the nun I really loved in both book and movie. And then real quick, I want to talk about Kitty, who is Anna's cousin who lives with them. In the movie, this is not in the book. In the movie, we begin on a soundstage with Kitty talking in voiceover, the actress who plays Kitty. And she's talking about how like people believe in stories and what we use stories for. And she's asking us to believe in this story we're about to see. And then it pans over to, seeing what's happening with Lib as she travels to Ireland. And then at the halfway point, we see Kitty break the fourth wall and she's looking at the camera and she like says something to us. And then at the end, we see Nan, Lib, and Will together on this boat going to Australia to start life afresh. And then it pans over and again we're in the soundstage and we see the actress who plays Kitty dressed in modern day clothing. And then it ends. I wasn't sure what the movie was trying to say. Like, I don't know if they're trying to say like, they clearly wanted you to be invested in this story and to maybe see how it still applies to today's time. I'm not quite sure. Whatever your theories are on why this actress who plays Kitty was in the beginning, middle, and end talking to the camera, I would love to hear your thoughts because I was kind of thrown off by those scenes. And on to book versus movie. So because of the mystery aspect of this, it was almost a guarantee that I would prefer whichever one I read or watched first because that mystery is such a big pull. Like, how is Anna living without food, or who is giving her food? What's the story? And that is the case here. I do prefer the book, but I prefer the book for multiple reasons. For one, like I said, I went into it not knowing the reveal, but I also loved that otherworldly aspect to it. And I thought the dark tone throughout really fit. And then once the reveal happens, it just flowed better. Whereas in the movie, there is like a very dark, foreboding score, but it almost was like the score of a horror movie or something. Like it almost seemed too dark for what the story was in the movie, because the movie leaves out all of these otherworldly, supernatural aspects, even though the reveal is still the same and it's still very upsetting and dark. The score just seemed too dark for the movie, I guess is what I'm trying to say. However, the movie is beautifully shot. Florence Pugh is incredible as Lib, and I would recommend the movie. Like, I didn't love it and I don't see myself watching it again, but like, it's free on Netflix, so why not, right? However, the book, I could see myself potentially rereading the book. There was just more depth to it and more nuance to the characters as well. Again, it's critical of religion, and it is kind of pretty heavy-handed in its critiques. But there are characters who have enough depth and nuance that it still, it's not like, still gives you things to think about, I guess. The movie is thought-provoking as well, though, too. But yeah, so ultimately, I do think the book wins, even though I do like the movie. And that wraps it up for The Wonder. Comment down below your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video. By the way, Emna Donoghue also wrote Room, which was adapted into the movie with Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay, which I also covered, so you can check that out. Also, there is another book called Wonder, just Wonder, and the movie adaptation also stars Jacob Tremblay, and I also covered that one. That was before I had YouTube though, so it's just the audio. But anyway, if you want to hear my book versus movie for Room or Wonder, you can check those out, and I will link to them. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, don't forget to give it a rating and review, and I will see you next time. Bye.